Hi, welcome to part 3 in my series on mountain navigation. If you didn't see episode 1 and 2 that I produced earlier in the year, I'll put a link at the end of this video so you can follow that and have a look at those episodes. The first one, really quite important, looks at the overarching strategy using the 5Ds for navigating in the mountains. And that 5D system is using direction, distance, duration, description and destination as a strategy for walking a leg of a journey in the mountains. The second episode looked in a little bit more detail at direction, looking specifically at how to take a compass bearing and how to follow a simple compass bearing along easy ground. Today, however, I'm going to start looking at following a compass bearing in difficult ground, how to deal with obstacles along the way, and how to get back on your bearing if you've had to deviate. So in this episode I'm going to revisit following a compass bearing, but I'm going to make it a lot more challenging because quite often in the mountains we're following a leg of a journey across very difficult ground, and that's why I've come to Cwm Tryfan today. Cwm Tryfan opens up in this absolutely incredible expanse of glacial bowl which has been completely restructured by the glaciers 10,000 years ago as it retreated down the valley down towards Capel Curig, leaving incredible escarpment and even roche moutonnées, which is large exposed boulders and rocks and bedrock that are now exposed by the elements and making a really incredible and very beautiful place. But what's brilliant about this location, it's perfect for navigation training. As I've demonstrated in episode 2, it's quite easy to use a simple system of taking a compass bearing from your map and travelling along the ground to a destination using that compass bearing. But today I'm going to give you a few tools for getting around obstacles but still sticking to your compass bearing, and a few tools for actually moving along very difficult ground where it might not be easy or it might not even be possible to keep going in a straight line. So to demonstrate these techniques of how to pass obstacles along the leg of a journey, I've picked a short leg of about 250 metres from where I am next to the end of this headland. I've looked at the map and tracked along 250 metres, and I'll take a bearing to follow that'll eventually take me to a small pond on higher ground slightly due east of me. I've started to look at the map now in more detail to see what obstacles I'm going to face, but actually the first obstacle is the ground that I'm walking on. It'll be very difficult to walk through this knee and thigh high heather with lots of ruts and drops in it. It's going to be hard to walk in a straight line whilst looking at my compass and following my compass bearing. So I need a technique that's going to help me do that and walk along the ground. The second obstacle that I'm going to face, I can actually hear it from here, is a brook or a stream. And what I might find is that where my compass bearing crosses the stream, it might be too wide, too deep for me to actually cross there. So I might have to deviate from my bearing by going upstream or downstream and then coming back onto my bearing. So we'll look at how to do that. And then finally I can see that the ground rises up, and I know from the map it changes in contour by at least one contour, so up to 10 metres in height gain. And I might find that that ground is really difficult to actually pass, and I might have to go round certain obstacles. So I'll look at a technique for plotting off from one obstacle, moving out in a box, moving out at a right angle to the right, then getting back on the bearing, moving back left to the original bearing and carrying on to my destination. So the first technique, and a very, very simple one for travelling across really difficult ground like this, is to set your compass bearing and then place the compass in front of you so that you're facing your direction of travel, and pick an object along that line that you can walk directly to rather than following your compass as you're walking. So in this case I can see a really large boulder that's down by the brook, and actually it lies within my journey, it lies within my bearing. I'm going to walk straight to that boulder instead of following my compass along the ground. So instead of following my compass and walking with my compass in front of me and following the bearing, all I've done is walked all the way to this large boulder which brought me to the brook. Now the problem is, where I found the brook and where it crosses my compass bearing, it's just too wide and perhaps a little bit too difficult to cross safely. So what I need to do now is deviate from my bearing by going upstream or downstream to find a safer crossing. But if I move from my position on this bearing and cross the stream higher up or lower down, I will no longer be on the proper compass bearing that will take me to my destination. It's quite a simple fix, and all I've got to do is remember where I would have crossed the stream if I'd stayed on my bearing, return to that point on the far side of the stream, and then carry on with my bearing from that point. The next kind of obstacle that you might face in difficult ground is one that you just simply can't go straight through. That might be really steep ground in front of you, either dropping away or rising up in front of you, or maybe a collection of boulders that are just too difficult to pass. And there's a really simple box system that you can use to get past obstacles like this. All you're going to do to get around the obstacle is use a very simple box system, using your compass at 90-degree angles to make sure that you've travelled 3 sides of a box until you get back to your original line. So the way you do this is stop at the obstacle. Let's say you're going to go around it to the left. Look down at your compass, turn left by 90 degrees. You don't need to change the compass housing. Follow along that direction for as many paces as it takes to get past the obstacle. Let's say you're going to travel 20 meters. So travel enough paces to get to the outside of that obstacle. Then you're going to turn right again by 90 degrees, so you're back on your original bearing, but remember you're not on your original line. You're 20 meters to the left. Move forward for as many paces as you need in order to get past the obstacle, which is now on your right. And then turn 90 degrees back to your right, looking at your compass to make sure it's a good 90 degrees. Go back to your original line, the amount of paces that you used to get round the obstacle in the first place, and when you've finished those paces, turn left onto your original compass bearing, and you should be back on your original line and carry on your journey to your destination.